So, I mean, what you didn't see was there was quite a bit of pipe work, if you'll excuse the expression, going as hidden as it could be. Let me put it like that. So there was 3 or 4 guys with little pumps to make that prosthetic belly move. And I mean, she had the tougher job. It was really cold, and she was virtually completely naked with this prosthetic belly, and we had to look in astonishment as this guy with this will ruin it for you, but it was a stick with a string and a thing shaped like a shadow. And I mean, none of us had seen a shadow baby before. We had no point of reference. So it was incredibly odd to be watching, and this thing had to grow. So they had the guy on a stick with this cut-out board, lifting this thing up, and we're trying to watch this. I mean, it's incredibly effective. And I remember, because it was the last shot of that episode, that episode 4, and I remember looking on a monitor with the director, and there was an exhibition in Dublin where they had this newly discovered Caravaggio painting called The Taking of Christ. It's a magnificent painting. And I remember looking at the monitor and just saying to myself, my God, this looks like a Caravaggio. And the director went, that was the brief. The brief was to make this look like a Caravaggio painting at the end. So that pullback of her sitting with me against the wall, crapping myself, was supposed to emulate the tones and of a Caravaggio painting. It was incredibly effective, but very strange to shoot. I'd love to be Dallas. He's a decent man, he's loyal, his principles are unshakable, and I think he's the type of guy that you would love on your phone if you were in trouble. He's the first man that would show up, and you just know that he won't sugarcoat answers. He'll tell you exactly how it is. And I always thought of him as, for those of you, most of you probably have seen The Godfather. Robert Duvall's character in The Godfather, Tom Hagen, I think his name is, and he's the consigliere of The Godfather, even though he's not part of the family. And there was always something, and I love Robert Duvall's acting. There was always something that in my mind that was kind of his loyalty was something that I held on to. I mean, strangely enough, for one of the reasons I like Davos is because where he began. I mean, his father was a crabber. He was a petty thief. He didn't have the money that the Lannisters have, and the education and the position of power and all that. And yet he has more nobility. He has more decency and honour than most of them put together. And I love that. That's one of the things I love about the writing and George's writing and George building of this character, that this guy is from the worst of the worst shithole in Flea Bottom in King's Landing. And yet he's more decency and more nobility than the people who are in power. And I think that's one of the reasons. It's not about Dallas, but about the show in general, that people like, is that it's not obvious. It's not patronising. It doesn't condescend. It's full of surprises, and you do find yourself questioning yourself when you're watching it. I mean, we had the stuff with Shireen last year and Sandler, which there was major trouble over. But you find yourself questioning it. I mean, especially my daughter went bananas, went mad over what happened to Sandler. She was really, really angry. And as I said to her, I said, look, in this show, bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. And there's something remarkable about. I mean, the example I use is Jamie in the first season. I mean, Nikolai was despised. People hated him. He was a horrible human being, and all he was a bad guy. And it wasn't until he was kind of captured and met Brienne. And when she was going to be raped, he actually stopped it, and you could see the spark of humanity in this guy. And you find yourself kind of going, maybe it was a bit tasty. And your sympathies shift, and that's what's really clever about the writing and George's books, is that your sympathies do shift. You may like some, I mean, you know, when Stannis came to the rescue of Jon Snow in North of the Wall with Mance and all that, all of a sudden Stannis was a hero. But this was the same guy that was burning prisoners with Melisandre, you know, one season before. And so you do find your sympathies and your empathy changing with these characters, and I think that's the sign of grown-up, mature writing. And it's also like magnificent characters. I mean, the amount of characters that you can watch in this that are fully formed and interesting, and you want to know what they're up to, and you know, if they're not in an episode, you kind of go, no wonder they're in the next episode. That's incredibly difficult to write for. And I think these guys do a brilliant job. The other thing is, how many shows do you know on television that have as many hugely strong female characters as Game of Thrones? And considering that it's very much a medieval kind of based society, which is run by men, but at the same time, the women we have that are in the show are incredibly dangerous, incredibly clever. Murderers. I mean, look at Arya. Arya's this height, she's killing people on a regular basis, and she's held up as a role model for women. That's the thing, but you get it. You get what her motivations are, and the fact that as each episode goes by, as a human being, she's, even under all this duress, she has an inner heart, you know, she's a steel rod inside her that her life force can't be crushed, because she's a wonderful character, and Maisie does a brilliant job of it. So you know, I'm amazed the amount of women that come up and kind of go, you know, we're rooting for this, Brienne and these unlikely heroes, female heroes, are, and I think it's about time. Of course, we should have a lot more. But it shouldn't be an exception, it should be the norm. But in our show, it is the norm, which is as it should be. Okay. It's very tricky to when you're doing a balancing act. I mean, it's more tricky for the writers, because there's so much beautiful material in these books, and also and just the whole scenarios, the world that has been created. I mean, for instance, I know exactly what you mean. I'll give, for instance, with Hard Home, episode 8 last year, when we had Birgitte, the Danish actress, when the battle with the White Walkers and all that. She almost stole the episode, and it was the first time, the only episode we'd seen. And I thought she did an absolutely remarkable job. You couldn't take your eyes off her. But we have people that come in and do, you know, a scene here and a scene there. Mark Gatiss, who I'm a huge fan of, when he did the League of Gentlemen, and he also writes Doctor Who and wrote Sherlock. And he's the bank manager in Bravos. He's been trying to get into the show for years. He's a fantastic actor as well. And when he came in, and I knew him from doing Doctor Who, he was so pleased to be involved in it. And then he was brought back, I think, for one episode again last year. And he just wants to be part of it, because he loves the writing and he loves the show so much. So people do come in and do their cameos and whatever, and I mean, there's lots of stuff. I mean, we love seeing Tyrion, but there's all sorts of people that it's an awful shame that they've been killed and gone, and then and at the same time you get some characters that come in for one episode, and then they come back 3 seasons later, and they get they get built up and stuff, and that's not because that's the plan. And I think that's kind of really interesting. It's not, it doesn't all hang on one guy who's, Mr. Gorgeous, and we know he's going to be the champion in the end, and we're just wondering which way it's going to happen. With this, anybody can go. And I think when Ned Stark in season 1 got the old, we knew that was going to be a game changer, and it was. But it's a good thing that we move around. That's what makes the world. It's the fact that we move around, we move to different places, and we concentrate on different characters. If we did it any other way, I just don't think it would be as good as it is.
I think we're going to give this microphone another try to see if it's working.
Hi. Do you have a funny story? funny stories from behind the scene? You could share?
Funny stories from behind the scenes.
Yeah, just throw one now. No. You know what? It's really. The funny thing is, the reason you don't really see any blooper reels or outtakes on this. There was a couple of them with the guy Jamie dancing, and I don't know. I don't think I've ever been on a show where the work the sets are as quiet as they are. I've never been on a show where when you get the scripts at the beginning of before we start shooting, there's virtually no changes made. Now there's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that these guys are so good at writing. But the other one is because it's incredibly difficult to shoot this. I mean, it's incredibly cinematic. For a television show, the tapestry is vast. It's that we have to have 2 units running constantly. Sometimes we have a 3rd unit coming in. So if any changes come, significant changes, the domino effect is enormous. It affects everything. So they want these scripts, as I say, bulletproof before we begin. We get a few changes. I've had maybe 10 emails with a couple of sentences changed, but it's all maybe grammatical, maybe, there won't be any great shift even in the direction or the spirit of the scene. It's just something that, it's a polish, really. So actually, to answer your question, when we hit the set, it's very quiet, it's very workmanlike, it's very intense. These are really long scenes. You've seen them. Some of them, sometimes there's only 20 scenes to an entire episode, sometimes less. And generally speaking, with most dramas, it's almost a page a minute is what the normal thing is. It's kind of MTV editing, it's really fast. So basically, on a lot of dramas, there are exceptions, but it's a page a minute.